A very warm welcome to everyone present here at the first annual Dharma Studies Conference. Thank you for joining us and for being part of this gathering. As we begin the first plenary session of the conference, it is my privilege to invite and hand over the microphone to the chair of the session, Dr. Siddharth Satapathy, Assistant Professor at the University of Hyderabad, who will introduce our distinguished speakers. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Welcome all. It's my privilege to introduce two stalwarts today to the August gathering. Professor Hosang Marchant was born in 1947 to a Zoroastrian business family in Bombay. He graduated second in his BA class in 1968 with a major in English and a minor in the culture of India. From his mother's family, he descends from a line of preachers and teachers. He holds a master's from Occidental College, Los Angeles. At Purdue University, he specialized in the Renaissance and Modernism. Those are his specializations, Renaissance studies and Modernism. The wide range of it, all the way from the Renaissance to Modernism to 20th century, that's what is something that's quite impressive. Professor Marchant has attended the Provincetown Fine Arts Work Center, Massachusetts, and lived and taught in Heidelberg, Iran, Jerusalem, and India. He has studied Buddhism at the Tibetan Library in Dharamsala, North India, as well as Islam in Iran and Palestine. Rupa and Co. published his book of poems, Flower to Flame, in 1992 in the New Poetry in India series. That's his breakthrough work. And then comes Yarana, Gay Writing from India, from Penguin, 1999. Forbidden Sex, Texts, New India's Gay Poets, Routledge, 2009. And The Man Who Would Be Queen, Autobiographical Fiction, Penguin, 2012. Secret Writings, Oxford, 2016. My Sunset Marriage, Navayana, 2017. Are among his notable works. Most of all, we do keep in mind that Professor Marchant has been teaching at the University of Hyderabad, or was teaching at the University of Hyderabad English department for years, and he has mentored a number of students, some of who are present here, including Professor Akshay Rath. So that's Professor Hosang Marchant. And then at the same breath, I'll take a few seconds more to introduce the other stalwart on the dais who we have here. Professor Ashok K. Mohapatra. He taught at the English department in the Sambalpur University for decades, until his retirement, of course. And he had a stint at the Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences in Bhubaneswar, and of course, St. Xavier's University, Kolkata. He also taught as a UGC Fellow at the Universities of Delhi, Jadavpur, and Burdwan. Professor Mohapatra was a Fulbright alumnus of Columbia and Yale Universities. He has authored and edited 5 books and has published over 60 book chapters, papers, and articles. Some of his publishers are Macmillan, Bloomsbury, Routledge, Orient Black Swan, Indiana University Press, University Presses of Nebraska, Mississippi, and so on and so forth. With this brief introduction to both our esteemed speakers, may I invite Professor Hosang Marchant to talk to the audience to deliver his address. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Okay. My paper is called The Dharma of a Gay Parsi Poet. I begin with a few epigraphs. The first is from Paulo Freire, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. To theorize the revolution is also revolution. The second one is from my own The Man Who Would Be Queen. To write the first Indian gay autobiography means to write the first Indian gay theory. As everyone knows by now, I'm homosexual. To write this sentence and to speak it publicly, which is a great liberation, is why I write. This slogan is from the 1960s women's liberation. The personal is the political. We gays have followed from the Black Revolution and the Women's Revolution. Genius is the capacity of keeping two contrary notions in one's mind at the same time without losing the capacity to function. This is F. Scott Fitzgerald, the Great Gatsby. F. Scott Fitzgerald, definition of genius. You know, when we in India say Dharma is Sansara and Sansara is Dharma, this is the genius of keeping two contrary notions at the same time. Every Indian is a genius, but Americans, they separate. So if they see somebody like me, oh, he's a genius. And I would say, who, me, genius? You see, so it goes on like that. Everything is relative, right? Okay, I have to talk about the Parsis because we are like the dinosaur. Nobody knows us. The Parsis are the remnants in India of Iran's Zoroastrians. Zoroaster, circa 624 BC, cleaned up the old Mazda-Yasni religion, which had fallen into witchcraft and necromancy. He declared Ahura Mazda, whose symbol is the sun or fire, to be the one supreme God. Later, Manichaeanism proclaimed Ahriman or evil as being equally powerful against God. So there is a debate if Zoroastrianism is monotheistic or dualistic. As children, we were shown a way out. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds will eternally triumph over evil, though evil may seem to win in this world. With the attack from Islam in the 4th century of the Christian era, the Iranian Zoroastrians of southeast Iran, Khorasan, fled with the sacred fire to Gujarat, arriving at Dev and Daman, and then Sanjan, where the local lord Jadi Rana gave them asylum. These Iranis became the Parsis of India. We were to give up our dress and our speech, lay down our arms, not conduct religious ceremonies publicly. Our weddings still take place after sunset, but we could keep our religion and practice our trades, which we still do to this day. Parsis assimilated in India, with more Zoroastrians arriving from Iran during the Shia persecution of minorities under the 16th century Safavid dynasty, and as late as the 19th century and the early 20th century under the Qajar dynasty of Iran. These last were now the vanishing Irani chai cafe owners of Bombay and Hyderabad. My parents were westernized, but they never ate beef. In Hyderabad, under a kindly Tamil Brahmin boss, I became vegetarian, wore kurtas instead of shirt and trousers in the tropic heat, and I go barefoot at home. My mother, a dastur, or a priest's daughter from rural Gujarat, took us to temples and church, but never to a mosque. Father, a city merchant from the Bedin or non-priestly class, forbade any religious visit except to fire temple. The book was the Avastha. We kissed the book, bread and babies, and we ignorantly spat on the Quran. Kissa Sanjan gives the sugar in milk story, Parsi sugar in Hindu milk, but it is apocryphal. I wrote a Parsi sugar in milk poem. It talks about Sanjan 689 AD, which is when we are supposed to have come. Sanjan is a city in Iran, and we named a city in Gujarat Sanjan, and that is our holy city to this day. Warlike men stepped ashore, fire in tow. The Rana, known for cunning and cowardice, spelled out no room for the new Rome. In charades, everybody being tongueless. Water in oil. A bowl full of milk sent back by Magi mail, sweetened pronto. Parsi sugar in Hindu milk. Water in water. Let's have a go. Sweet turned sweat. Greed turned gold. Adam's curse of old. This I wrote on 15 July 2025. I prepared my paper in July, huh? That's how industrious I am. And how fearful I am. कि क्या होगा मेरा क्या होगा मेरा क्या होगा. I'm 80 years old. I have been teaching since the age of 15. At Parsi school in independent India, I'm a midnight child. We sang Gandhiji's hymn, Vaishnav Janto Tek Tene Kaye, from Narsi Mehta's Gujarati hymn, and fervently prayed to Zoroaster, as did the Hindu girls in our school. But I was a homosexual child. Zoroastrianism forgives every sin except homosexuality. We burn in the fires of hell eternally. I had to give up a religion that did not accept me. The Arthashastra provides a Hindu homosexual absolution by a ritual bath, a prayer, and some alms giving. But the two offending fingers of a lesbian were to be cut off. A Brahmin may not sleep with a person lower down in the social scale. So, assimilated or not, I was cast out of the pack again. I was a hijra or a chakka at home. I went west, tiring of the West licentiousness, which is actually an inverted or hidden Puritanism. The Playboy is nothing but Puritanism in opposite side of being, and I was tired of being the West faggot. I wanted to become a poet. Zoroastrianism is a minority culture in India. The two major religions here are Sanatan Dharma and Islam. Since I had been to Catholic schools and also studied in the West, I became a hybrid culturally, a thoroughly syncretized creature. I call myself Parsi by birth, Hindu by culture, Christian by education, and Sufi by persuasion. मेरी बहन मेरे पे हंसती थी, तो कुछ भी नहीं, जा जा. This last comes from my Middle Eastern travels, where I had become a seeker after abjuring the West, throwing the Dalai Lama in the mix for good measure. Since I became a poet, I have a poem for each aspect of my Dasa Avtara. The dharma of this Parsi homosexual in India was to be a poet. It is a shibboleth among westernized Indian urban homosexuals to justify their own homosexuality through the concept of the androgynous Shiva, the Ardhanareshwar. This Shiva aspect only points to the basic androgyny of every human mind and body. And no, Khajuraho has no gay sculpture. The only gay sculpture in India is at Konarak. Ardhanareshwar is nothing but a combination of Shiva and Vishnu. An avatar is an Ardhanareshwar. Every avatar is an Ardhanareshwar. I am both male and female. The combination of Shiva and Vishnu is the Dakshinamurti Rupam, or a boon in divine form. The avatar lies in the middle because he or she must know you both from the outside mind and the inside body. I am feminine inside and masculine outside. I can understand and communicate with the male and female only when distanced from both and beyond both. This new understanding of old wisdom allows all the foolishness of cross-dressing and sex reassignment surgery to vanish in one stroke. The greatest triumph of the patriarchy was to co-opt into new religions, that is Tantra, the very gender, feminine gender, whose freedom and power it taught to curtail. Ardhanareshwar was created by fusing male and female element into a single deity. In some cases, the old goddess was married off to the new god. Shiva's marriage to Shakti and Krishna's to Apsara, many Apsaras. The post-secular imagination, which is an idea of Manav Rakti from 2015, means to explore secular alternative to secularism. Secular alternatives to secularism. Ones that can gesture to inspiring features of religion without the violence that is attached today to religions. the paradox thus becomes to find a non-secular secularism and a non-religious religion. Just as the British wiped out knowledge, new knowledge can also be created. So you can say that the section 377 of the British Indian Penal Code aimed to wipe out homosexuality, first created a legal entity called homosexuality. Such a creature did not exist because you do not have a name for something you do not speak about. There is no word in Hindi languages for homosexuality. This is Samlingam and all, they have just created it. There is no such word in India because it doesn't exist. Every human being is bisexual. Maybe in spirit, maybe in practice, but we accept it. We don't talk about it. In Bhakti, I'm a Buddhaji, you know, I know many things. I didn't talk like that when I began. In Bhakti, both men and women were free to go into Radha Bhava as Sakhis of the divine Krishna. Lady Meera, Princess of Mewar, danced and sang publicly to her Krishna. Today she is still revered as a saint, though for 5 centuries in her own Rana family in Mewar, the members have branded her as a whore. As I write, there are today dozens of gay American male Krishna bhakts in Vrindavan writing false Meera bhajans. No wonder we have thousands of Meera bhajans. Everyone is Radha, everyone is Krishna, including me. But I take the old songs and give them a new twist. So my gay poetry in English becomes Indian and Orphic, not plebeian, not sexual. The sacred is profaned and the profane made sacred. Megasthenes in his book Indica classes Persians in India, not Parsis, the old Persians who came after Alexander or before Alexander, in India as Yavan or foreigner, Mlecha or barbarian. That is speaking a barbaric meaning unintelligible tongue. If I don't understand your tongue, you become barbaric to me. If you don't understand my tongue, I become barbaric to you. So barbarism is relative, it's not absolute. But the Parsis themselves followed rigorous purity rules like the Brahmins, wearing a sacred thread but at the waist to separate the lofty from the gross. You can imagine the neurosis of modern Parsi man like me, who ingests impure bodily fluids and has sex outside any societal rule, let aside the marriage sacraments. The Aghoris, in contrast to the Brahmin, become determinedly impure by partaking of the 5 M's: Maithuna, Madira, Matsya, Masa, and Mudra. Mudra means money. Shiva is their patron. Shiva, the Lord of the dissenter, the renouncer, the wayward, the very captive of his devotee, the great patron of the arts, yogi par excellence, at the same time the great destroyer, angry and disdainful of the social order. He inhabits the margins of the Brahmanical world. I'm talking of Shiva. He inhabits the margins of the Brahmanical world. He is the Lord of the lower strata. He presides over the Himalayas, South India, the Ghats, where Brahmanism is precarious, says Alain Danielou in his great book, speaking of Shiva. The Aghoris are fringe on society's margins. Their practices are beyond the pale. They derive from tantric sects like Kapalika tantric ascetics. They dwell in cremation grounds, practice tantric sex, imbibe impure substances. They transcend purity laws to realize ultimate non-duality. They practice purity, they transcend purity laws to realize ultimate non-duality. This is a interview in the Hindu of 18/3/2017 by the great tantric scholar James Mallison. You can call me a Parsi Aghori. Oh, my father used to call me an Aghori, and the Parsis just don't call me anything anymore. Okay. Ode to the Great Mother. She who creates from her long tongue, who wears suns in her hair and skulls over her great chest, Shiva's consort, who dances on funeral pyres where life and death and desire are one, to her I bow. Here is my take on Krishna, Kaliya Mardan. Kaliya Mardan. Who is it who dances on a serpent? Who is the serpent and who the dancer? The Gaulis are all thrilled by a gopi, but the gopi is only a long-head Gaula. This gopi is only a long-head Gaula. Why this bisexual Shiva dance when Krishna is present? Why has Krishna forgotten to dance? He has fallen in love with old Father Time, the old serpent Kaliya. Kaliya is still embellishing his coils like the serpentine streets of old Hyderabad. Do you dance at the crystal bar? Be careful, the crystal may be my heart. Do you dance at the old crystal bar? Be careful, the crystal may be my heart. I who refuse to crush gilded girls like butterflies, I who used to crush gilded girls like butterflies in backseat of cars and wow them with my butler English, I've gone for a sixer. I've gone for a sixer to old Father Time, who is but a fat fairy who never married, who wants children but had no time to take a wife. The ropes of intrigue and storytelling are long as is the mating dance, but life is short. But life is short. Krishna sits abject on the pavement, his cell phone battery is out, and he weeps, a beggar, for love, because his parents are only surrogate parents. The city river has run dry, and he weeps for the love of Radha, married to this world, leaving him bereft, and he weeps for the love of death. Death is the bridegroom, and we are all brides. Death is the bridegroom, and we are all brides. The coils of the serpent are now the coils of karmic time, or the circles of skirts of dancing Sufis. Men become women in the face of Father Time. Men become women in the face of Father Time. Let the threshing floor be the dance floor. Let the dance floor be my grave. I dance on death's serpent hood. I lie face down in the street in the summer heat and drink the subterranean waters which I can't well in myself, but which I now am fed in my love by old Father Time. कुछ कुछ लिख देता हूँ, मत पूछना क्या लिखा है. कुछ देवी बोलती है मेरे में से, मैं नहीं हूँ वो. I'm only honest and sincere in my work. Otherwise, natak. Pura life is natak. Whole life is Parsi natak. That's the only way to remain sane, my dears. Krishna Sudama. Gay love can be a pure friendship also. Gay love can be a pure friendship also, taking a leaf out of Krishna Sudama. Akshay loves this poem. He knew that I was not a sinner but a saint when he read this poem. He became mine for life. Ah, ये किसी का नहीं, उसका ही. Krishna Sudama. Krishna and Sudama were classmates. One became king, one remained a poor Brahmin, whose wife said to him, "Go to your friend the king." What shall I take? Here is this beaten grain mixed with sand. It is all we have. Sudama, aged by life but not beaten, went to his childhood friend with an old man's face. Recognized by his gait, Krishna embraced him. "I need something from you." "This beaten grain?" "Yes, yes, I'm hungry," said the Lord, and ate hungrily of his devotee. Sudama's eyes filled with tears, and his hovel, a mansion, appeared. He had never left home. He only had invited the friend into his heart. कन्वर्ट हो गए ना सब, सब हिंदू बन गए. Frustrated heart. Parsi heart. Parsi has no heart. किसी ने मेरे को पूछा तुम्हारा धर्म क्या है, मैंने कहा मनी. मेरा नाम क्या है, मेरा नाम क्या है, merchant. I'm the only poet in the world with this name. Just as bhakti love uses heterosexual love as a metaphor for divine love, so Sufis use homoerotic metaphor for the same. Sufi love for God is through the platonic contemplation of a boy's beauty, not a girl's, because a girl can lead to zina or sin. Presumably, a boy would not lead a heterosexual male Sufi astray. Poet Hafiz of Shiraz, he's considered a saint, Hafiz of Shiraz, poet, is willing to give the wealth of both Bukhara and Samarkand for the dark mole on the face of a fair boy. Ahur, Joseph of Canaan in the Bible, called Yusuf in the Quran, is a prophet known both for his beauty and chastity. Both for his beauty and chastity. This divine love is ishq hakiki. Hakiki means jadi, real love, not to be confused with ishq majazi. Majaz means तुम्हारे दिमाग में आज ये लड़की पसंद आई, कल वो लड़का पसंद आया, फिर कुछ को और पसंद आ गया. You see, that is majaz. तुम्हारा मिजाज से चेंज होता है. अल्लाह का जो लव है वो इश्क हकीकी है, वो कभी चेंज नहीं होता, वो इटर्नल रहता है. और जैसे दीवाने आघोरी है, वैसे दीवाने सूफी भी रहते हैं, तो उनका भी कुछ जिक्र कर लो. The Sufis are not without blame throughout their history for this boy love. उनका नाम बदनाम है, लड़कों के साथ पोएम लिखते हैं, और कुछ मैं नहीं बोलता. They keep vigil 40 nights. 40 nights is called chilla, chihel, chilla, as Rumi did with Shamas, and claim to come out transformed. They go into trance and dance, uttering God's name, dhikr or zikr. They shake and tremble their long-sleeved limbs and are known to swallow glass as self-tribulation. जो पाकिज़ा में मीना कुमारी शीशे पे नाचती है ना, वो सूफी has become Bollywood. वो शीशे पे क्यों नाचते हैं? क्योंकि वो शीशे खाते थे. अभी मीना कुमारी सूफी बन गई. ये हमारा कलियुग है. My new book is going to be called Anarkali of Kali Yug. वो कौन होगी तुम थिंक कर लो. अनार के साथ एक फोटो भी निकाला है मैं. कोई औरत पूछी, इज दिस अ रियल अनार और प्लास्टिक वन? प्लास्टिक अनार भी खाते हैं क्या लोग आजकल? पेप्सी कोला बनाता है क्या? क्या पता. मुझे दीवाने बुलाते. देखो, they shake and they tremble, their long-sleeved limbs, and are known to swallow glass as self-tribulation. In fact, they invite blame and hardship. Malamat. They invite blame and hardship, and hence are called Malamati Sufi. मेरे लिए बोलते हैं दीवाना है, जाने दो जाने दो. पागल बन के मैं आधा गांव लूट के छूट जाता हूँ. ये हमारा गुजराती proverb है. They invite blame, and like poets and madmen and lovers, they revel in their infamy. They are the Muslim counterpart of the Hindu Aghori. Sufi intoxication is of a different order though. They are superb poets and great teachers. The Sufi master chants God's name and whirls. He gently hits the Shagir student here on his left chest, on the left side, the side of the heart. The Qibla, or the direction of the prayer, is nothing but the heart. तुम जिधर किबला बनाओ उधर तुम्हारा दिल होना, नहीं तो नमाज कबूल नहीं होती. This is Yusuf of Kaman, one of Joseph's Kannan. Kannan is Israel. One of Joseph's lovers speak. वो उसके पीछे सब दीवाने बन जाते थे. वो किसी का दीवाना नहीं था, because he was chaste and beautiful. Today the moon of my new madness has become. Joseph has come out of Egypt. His beauty shone in my face. It is as if I have eaten sugar. It is as if I am walking in a dream, he having captured my thoughts. I saw him once opposite a mosque, the infidel. In a marketplace, I saw his naked feet. We were both in doorways. I do not know who saw whom first. You can say it was a mutual reckoning. A voice called out of Egypt. One who was bought out of slavery now enslaves another. Brothers, his teeth marks are on my neck, though he only smiled at me, that rosy smile. His teeth marks are on my neck, though he only smiled at me, that rosy smile. We have wounded as each other as enemies. We have wounded as each other as enemies and are now seeking each other as medicine. Forever as medicine. कल तुम पूछ रहे थे ना कि धर्मा मेडिसिन है, धर्मा मेडिसिन है. दलाई लामा ने मुझे कहा, to the sick give medicine. मैं डॉक्टर मर्चेंट हूँ ना, लोग मुझे तीर दिखाता है करके बस में. Teacher story. I have been a music teacher all my. और टीचर का क्या हालत होता है जब लड़का आ जाता है तो टीचर दारू पीता है, मुसलमान है और फिर बदल जाता है. ये कहानी में कोई बदलता नहीं है, कहानी में बदलते. Teacher story. I have been a music teacher all my life. For me, music is to keep alive old music. I hardly look at boys. One day after prayer, I went to a bar. There a humble boy served me. Dark, hardly a moustache, but he hummed as he brought gudamba and chana. Suddenly, I saw God in a split pea. Suddenly, I saw God in a split pea. The boy knew my music. He fell at my feet. I raised him. He asked to learn music from me, a drunkard. He sang Rumi, learned from his grandfather. You and I sitting together on one mat in Shiraz and Samarkand, you and I who never married, never touched women, found myself caressing the voice of a boy. How must his body be? How must his body be? The body has wisdom. It takes in the impressions of the ravages we visit upon it. The body has wisdom. It takes upon itself the ravages we visit upon it. As the city of Samarkand took upon itself Timur's ravages, the body is not savage. The body is not savage. It is our wrong spiritual teaching that is savage. The body is not savage. It is our wrong spiritual teaching that is savage. I was civilized by the body of the voice of a boy. I was civilized by the voice, the body of the voice of a boy. As some are transported by the body of a liquor to heaven. As some are transported by the bouquet of a liquor to heaven. I left my music. I brought the boy home. I came down to earth. I became his father. लहू बनाया बहाया है मैंने. एक एक लफ्ज के लिए एक एक बूंद खून बहाया है मैंने. ये बाल धूप में सफेद नहीं हुए हैं. In the spiritual realm, height and depth are one. जितना तुम्हारा मालूमती है, जितना तुम्हारी बदनामी है, उतने तुम अच्छे सूफी बनोगे. The deeper an adept falls, the higher he rises, just as Jesus of Nazareth's humiliation on the cross and crucifixion enabled him to reach the height of Christhood. Jesus became Christ when he was the most demeaned, the most humiliated. In spirituality, height and depth are one. It is a Neoplatonic wisdom, which is an admonishment to these Marxists, which says, If everything is inside the soul, if everything is inside the soul, then the body is also in the soul. Marxism कहता है body पहले आता है, soul तो कुछ है ही नहीं. But if everything is soul, then the body is also soul. Body को क्यों बदनाम कर रहे हो? Body भी soul है. वो तो हिंदू लोगों को मालूम था. ये डेकार्ट ने डिवाइड किया ना. I think therefore I am. I eat therefore I am. I defecate therefore I am. I fornicate therefore I am. उसका क्या हुआ? वो निकाल दिया. यूनिवर्सिटी ने निकाल दिया. सब प्रोफेसर बन गए मेरे को बदनाम करने. There is no distinction between body and soul. The Dalai Lama returned me to my true vocation of teaching through his teaching. Canto, searching the Guru. To be born in a country of faith is good karma. To want to seek faith is also good karma. But to find the right Guru is the best karma. But to find the right Guru is the best karma. I call karma my intelligence. I call karma my intelligence. Salman Farsi found Muhammad the Prophet in a slave market at Mecca. 3 wounds and all. The Black Mary sold herself on board for passage to the Holy Land. Jesus accepted her. A Vinod Khanna, a Pamela Bordis may find Rajneesh. Sex not only as heat, but also light. Sex not only as heat, but also light. Many found Krishnamurti wanting. I found my Guru seated on a throne on Tibetan carpets in a bare Lama gown. Dhondan Thondup or thereabouts was his name. Dhondan Thondup or thereabouts was his name. Forget me, he said. I did. Remember the Dharma. And if you can't, remember to do good. And if you can't, please don't hurt. Please don't hurt. The toilet next to the precious archive stank. The only glory, as in glory hole, was its. The teacher, a powerful man, had become flaccid. He wanted to go lie down with animals in some cave. He forgave the Chinese who fired on him as he fled Tibet. He forgave the Chinese who fired on him as he fled Tibet. He taught the Dalai Lama how to smile, which he did. O Dalai Lama, teach us who have fallen among dogs. Our spirit is among dogs. Teach us salvation and the way to salvation. This is Antonin Artaud in 1930, before opium and colon cancer took him. Seeing Buddhahood in a dog, I shared lodgings with a dog one night. Spraining an ankle, I shared the lodging. Spraining an ankle, I used the blessed scarf as bandage. I gave away the holy books. Dharma is a healing without medicine. I descended the Thunder Mountain. I abstained from fashionable tantras of the Thunderball. Reaching the valley, I found my true vocation. That was the grace of my Guru. That merely was the true thunderbolt. Nagarjuna said, there is no difference at all between nirvana and samsara. There is no difference at all between samsara and nirvana. No separate reality was preached at all, none and nowhere by the Buddha. तुम लोग कितने प्यारे हो, मैं समझा कि मेरे को खा जाओगे. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. अभी मैं वहां जाके बैठ जाऊंगा, ठीक है? मुझे डर लगता है आपसे. अक्षय ये ले ले, ये भी ले ले, मेरे को भी ले ले. चल. हाँ, अच्छा, थैंक यू. हाँ, मैं आप कुछ हंसते हैं.
Hello. Yeah, I think it's okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, so now we go on to the talk of the day, talk of the session. Lady present, Professor Ashok.
Okay, I'll be mercifully brief, or I'll try to be, after this great session we had with Professor Merchant. I'll be talking about the death of God in the concept of avatara and the Nara Narayana dialectic. I have been translating for quite some time the old Odia texts, particularly excerpts from the Mahabharata, Sarla Mahabharata, which was written sometime in the 15th century. And lately, I read certain portions of the Jagannatha Dasa's Odia Bhagavata, a 16th century text. Then what struck me was this intense moment of God choosing to leave his own creation, and their God is feeling no different from humans who have been engrossed in Maya. It was his own creation, and he feels so attached to the people he has created, and that. Dharma to me is never an otherworldly affair. As Professor Merchant said towards the end of his talk, that here is moksha, here is samsara, and there is no duality. Pretas never talk about dharmas, or they have nothing to do with dharmas. We, the living people, talk about dharma. Living beings are bound by samsara, embedded in samsara, in this quotidian world. It's Jayati Lokan Anena Dharati Lokam Va, which means that it's a principle to support and uphold the moral, social, and cosmic order of life. And my point is not what Dharma is, but my point is to whom it matters, not to the dead. We don't know what happens to the dead. But we people who are here try to conceive of our existence in several ways, and samsara, we believe, is Vishnu's Leela through the veil of Maya. And to ponder this question, one has to move to the philosophical issue of Nara Narayana Avatara. Because this Maya, Leela, Samsara, all these are, to my mind, you know, these are ramifications of this basic Nara Narayana. And I wish to explore Maya is so important a concept in Advaita, Vedanta, Sankhya, Bhakti, Tantra traditions. And the crux of Maya lies in the phenomenon of the death of God, in our case, Krishna. It has nothing to do with Nietzsche's idea of the death of God in his gay science. Gay, of course, has nothing to do with gay, but that was Kaufman's translation of Nietzsche. Anyway, if Krishna is coded as Narayana, the dialectic of Nara and Narayana, Ayana, that is the abode of Nara, becomes clear. Jalani Narah, Jalashayad Basanti, Narottamah, Tasmatu Jalatmakam Prahusneva Narayana. This is Manusmriti, chapter 1, verse 10. Manusmriti was written sometime between the 2nd century BCE to the 3rd century CE. An improved translation, it is humans live by water and from water bodies, Naro Narottama, or he is the best among them, a great man, Tasmatu Jalatmakam Prahu. Therefore, the wise men declare that the best among them is of the nature of water. Tena eva Narayana, hence he is called Narayana. So, water and close proximity. Water is the habitat, water is the substance, and Nara includes all living beings. It means human. This human is a tapasvi, and a tapasvi has overcome Maya. So the best among the Naras is Arjuna, the warrior par excellence, and who has been depicted so in the Bhagavad Gita. But what is very interesting is that the primordial waters that enfold Nara and Narayana, in the sense that the waters are called, that is the abode, of the world of the abode of the Naras. Now, what I'm trying to say is that human is but a corporeal extension of Godhead, not in harmony, nor in conflict, but in a dialectical engagement with the divine. This dialectical engagement between Nara and Narayana is mutually sustaining. It is worthwhile to say that the point that dialectics is never temporally linear. It's a misnomer. We always think that in a linear temporality dialectics is possible, but it's never so. Never so. There are rich literature on dialectics in cyclical temporalities. I don't wish to go into all that. Leaving aside many interpretations of Nara Narayana, I think people are getting bored here. I don't really have much to entertain. I wish I could. But there is something very interesting. I choose the metaphysical concept of Asmavatara. This avatara begins from Asmavatara, which is German to the meaning of the birth as well as the death of God. It is Ichha, it is something Ichha Mrityu. God doesn't die of any factor other than himself. So it's not for any external factor that God, it is mores ex voluntate, mores ex voluntate. That means death by volition. God wishes to die, so he dies. I mean, this is a belief strongly held by the Vedantic philosophy and best illustrated by Bhishma's choice of self-cessation. Bhishma wanted to finish himself. Now, this is the logical ground for the conceptualization of avatara, which is avatru, which means down, to cross, pass over. And dharmakala sarge naranarayana varushi bhutotmat sampravasatam akarocha duskritam. Well, this is Vishnu Puran, first chapter, chapter 1, which means that in the 4th age of Dharma, Triye Dharmakala Sarge, in the 4th age of Dharma, incarnated were the Nara Narayana. Being self-controlled, they undertook many austerities, both Nara as well as Narayana. both divine and human, indeed recognized each other. That's very interesting. In the Bhagavad Gita, the sixth uh, skanda of the Mahabharata, chapter 16, where verse 5, Krishna's and Arjuna are in dialogue, and there it says, Devam Manushyalingi Nitya Santatamadaram Gyatva me same tveshi nasti tatveto param. Krishna recognizes Arjuna as much divine as Arjuna acknowledges Krishna as a supreme being, citing that Krishna in his self-statement has endorsed what the rishis have said. Now, this ontological divine human dialectic, to which the divine is the embodied form, also partakes of the human, and that's very unique to the Sanatana metaphysics. The divine also partakes of the human qualities, vrittis, gunas. And there comes no resolution. The divine human dyad is quite fraught with moments of ethical dilemmas on the part of Arjuna as to what is wrong or right in his interaction with Krishna. This is because there is a simultaneous identification, this is very important, simultaneous identification as well as differentiation between Nara and Narayana. It's a very fraught kind of relationship. Arjuna is led into a situation of war with the kinsman where Narayana is his Sarathi and yet differentiated from Nara at the time of his death, with which I will end my paper. In fact, this is where I'm leading. Well, before venturing into the death of God, we need to gloss over a few important issues like Maya and Sansara. It is worth recalling the third verse of Maya Panchakam by Sankara, 8th AD to 8th century to the 9th century. That was the time. Sukha chit akhanda vibodham advitiyam vyat analadi vinimate nijatva Brahmayati Brahmasagare Nitantam Tvaghatita Ghatana Patiyasi Maya. It means Maya, the subject of the verse, wonders and wonders in error. So there is this typical, post-structuralist, which Derrida does, kind of a. You wonder, it's you move in error. In the world, like see manifold events that have never occurred. So it's an illusory force that produces the false knowledge that things are happening. And similarly, the word samsara is a reflection of pure consciousness. In fact, my entire talk rests upon the linguistics of Bhartrihari, his Vakyapadiya. I don't know how many of you are familiar with his linguistics, but Vakyapadiya is very important because he influenced Sankara, and he was an Advaita Vedantist, a monist, and he said something very interesting. I'll take 3 quotes from Vakyapadiya and try to relate it to how Nara and Narayana are dialectically engaged with each other. They are not similar, no different. This whole paradox has been linguistically explained by Shabda Brahman, which he talks about, and the sequence of language at the level of sentence, at the level of clauses, at the level of phrases. In fact, if we want to understand all this, we cannot separate our knowledge of metaphysics from knowledge of linguistics. That's why my appeal to all of them who are very keen to develop their knowledge of the ancient Indian tradition, they have to have linguistics. Well, pratibimba yatha yatra sthitam tvayo priyavashad tat privritti bhi bhava tad pravritti bhavat bhevanti sa dharma sphoto nadayo. Spota, nada, udbhava, these are the key words here. And atmarupam yatha jnane geyarupa cha drishyate artharupa tatha shabdeshvarupam cha prakashitam. These verses are 49 and 50. I'll explain. Here, the key words of the first verse were spota, nada, udbhava, pravritti, and this one, that is verse 50, atmarupam yatha jnane jnana rupam, that is further illustrated. Grahatve grahakatu tutva dve shaktaya tejasah yatha tatha eva srava shabdanimete pruthavasastiste, which means tatha eva srava sabdan ete pruthak avasthite. Light illuminates the object, makes the object and person seen. Similarly, it can be seen by the person holding it. I see the light because the light manifests me, or else there will be darkness. So light illuminates me and I spot the light. This is the basic theory of reflection. What happens here is that just as light illuminates the object, makes objects and persons seen, similarly it can be said that each reflects or manifests the other, but they are different. Similarly, Nara and Narayana both reflect each other. Well, and yet they are different. Here we need to understand, like Professor Jain was talking to us about comparative philosophy. If we talk about the post-structuralist paradigm, identity and difference, the key word is that the structuralists said X is X because X is not Y, Y is not Y because Y is not Z, and so on. We have this infinite labyrinth of contrasts, and hence, well, X is X. But post-structuralists would say, that's not the case. What makes you think X is X? Whatever it has, I mean, there is no metaphysical idea of presence. It is continuously differed. But then the whole idea is based on difference. X is X, is not Y, and Y is Y, just because it is different from Z. But that's not the whole thing. Bhartrihari brings in this idea of difference as vigorously as the structuralists and post-structuralists. But then he also says that each entity exists on its own. I mean, he is very ontological. He is very ontological. He is very ontological. For instance, Light has the dual characteristics of showing itself and showing the other objects. Similarly, word or shabda in their natural flow show themselves as much as their referent and meanings. So there is a principle of double referencing which will be clear to everyone. In the third book of Vakyapadyam, Bhartrihari says, unity is the source of duality. He begins from unity and moves on to duality. And because distinctions are preceded by it, okay, that's fair enough. X is X because it is not Y, which structuralists have said. Without it, there is no possibility of other numbers coming into existence. This is chapter 3, book 3 of Vakyapadya, where he talks about, which is a restatement of what can be said, Chetanasa eva vibhajyate isadristayo swarupena vivikshitiya. That means consciousness can be divided into drishya and drashta. Like the unity can break up into duality, and correspondingly, Sabda Brahma can be broken into spota. Spota actually has been interpreted in so many ways, I cannot possibly go into it. Some people say spota is moksha, you know. But spota, to me, is immanence. Spota is immanence, and seen and heard through the three stages of Paschanti Sabda and the Para. I don't wish to go into the linguistics of Bhartrihari here. But what I'm trying to say is that Bhartrihari's linguistics clarifies several points. I'll tell them one by one. Immanence of meaning and sound takes place through mutual reflection. Shabda Pramana, Shabda Brahman, and that is, manifested through immanence of meaning and sound. Spota, which is executed within a time frame. Spota, whether there is a debate whether spota is it signifies the explosion of a bomb, or it it signifies the gradual opening of the petals of a flower. There is a lot of debate there, but that's not important for us. What I'm trying to say is that within a time frame, be it the explosion of a bomb or the unfolding of the petals, well, that it can be, it can be an immanence of the transcendence. That's the whole thing. So that it can be Vakya or Shabda, there can be Vakya Spota or Shabda Spota, which are temporarily, how much time I have? Okay. So Spota Nada dialectic is the linguistic register of Nara-Narayana dialectic. This is my key part. This Nara-Narayana dialectic, in order to understand that, I take the help of Bhartrihari. And Avatara is realized through Leela, which is enunciated non-teleologically through dialogism across never-ending temporal stretch of yugas. Avatara is not incarnation. What's the difference? Well, can we say Jesus Christ is the Avatara, God, but he is God the Son? Well, that's only in one teleology there can be an incarnation. One teleology. But ours is a multiple teleology, a never-ending teleology in the yugas. Jagannatha, for instance, initiates another avatar of the Kali Yuga. After that, it is the post, I would say, post-mortem Vishnu teleology, Jagannatha teleology. So, when we take the entire Bhagavata from Satya Yuga, or they call it Krita Yuga, to Dwapara, to Tretaya, to Kali, and Mahabharata is just prior to Kali. And again, we have yet another Yuga. I don't know whether it's Kali or it is post Kali, because post proliferates in the Western discourse, post everything. I don't know what we would call it. But in the light of all these, uh, you would find these Saeva Ubacha, Saeva Puchata, Saeva Vyakhyasi, Vyakhyati, Saeva Brabiti, Evam Mukta Sahapraya are the narratological principles of opening up dialogic chains. So, in the narratives, the creation of Maya erases the dialectical knowledge of double referencing, reflection, and the mutual immanence of spota and nada. So, if we unpack Maya, what we find are these double referencing. It refers to itself as well as to something. But that something is very different from this. This is reflected in that, and that is reflected in this. X recognizes Y recognizes X. And God's death, when it happens, Maya ends. And the mutuality of immanence and manifestation also ends. Only difference prevails. Some can go to, he can go to Vaikuntha. The others go to Swarga. I don't know, Swarga and Vaikuntha are not the same. That is Vishnupura. And I have translated a bit of some verses. I'll just read out. If such be his glory, no human avatara he is. This is Krishna's departure after his, this is 11th Skanda, Canto 32, Krishna's departure. If such be his glory, and it is Uddhava who is summing up, if such be his glory, no human avatara he is. Fools only say he spared not his corporeal frame. Of the world, he is the primal cause for the sustenance and destruction, and he indulges in Leela. Though a mighty force he embodies, so destroyed he the Yadu clan to lessen the earth's burden, and he did not hesitate or move. He betook himself his abode, and this part is very important. God of all gods he is, and to them he shows his divine immanence. He is lost in his Leela as an adept performer and wonders in the Maya he creates. So it's God who is not out there, but God is pretty much here, lost in his Leela. And in my reading of this Bhagavata and Sarala Mahabharata, I discern one major difference between Bhagavata and Mahabharata. The Bhagavata is a long chronicle of Krishna's life from the perspective of Advaita monism, but Mahabharata chronicles a multi-generational causal chain of events, conflicts of interests, moral dilemmas, conflicting. It is more dramatic than Bhagavata. And the decline of Dharma and its reinstation through moral discipline. And this view actually has been corroborated by many scholars. What I will just read out this part and conclude my talk. There is one very remarkable event of the Kokua, which we find in Sarala Mahabharata. To me, Maya can be destroyed by Maya again. I mean, Kantake naiva Kantakam. So violence is to be perpetrated, and we need to, in this case, probably think of revising our ideas of the critique of violence by Walter Benjamin. This is a new kind of violence, unleashed by God through Maya, so that the Maya can be destroyed. They struck the Kadamba tree that later does, uh, and from the tree oozed Kadambari, the milky fluid, frothy and thick. Amazed at this side, Shama reported to Krishna, and who in turn reported Balarama of the event, explaining how it came about. For years, this tree has been my favorite haunt. With the milkmaids, I have dallied umpteen times. Never did I see this milk ever sipping out. Strange as it is, let me find how it tastes. Curious and eager, they all drank it heartily. Divine it was in taste, and milk as it were. Listen, O Manu, the fluid poured in copious stream, thanks to Vishnu's contrivance, as all hard that surpass the nectar of Seva, they all merrily caroused Kadambari. And this way, they were all drunk, while maces, clubs, arrowheads into powder all turned. They started hitting, they were completely drunk, and in a stupor, they destroyed one another. And then Krishna awoke from his own stupor. He was also stupefied, but he came to his senses to see the grounds littered with bodies, whom I called my own, have all been done to death. What do I have to do here now? Before Balarama could come round, he betook himself to the forest and the humans, which the humans never dared to enter. And when Balarama comes, Balarama, of course, in Vyasa Mahabharata, Balarama, it wouldn't be called suicide, but he chooses to live again, Ichha Mrityu. Why did you desert me, O wilder of clouds? Saying this, Krishna at his own hands looked. His conch and the disc were not to be found. He is no more that Vishnu Avatara. That's the end of Avatara. But these had already left for the Vaikuntha. So, and Jarasabara, in course of time, kills him. And this is again an event caused by a long chain of, causes and curses. So, what appears accidental, Jarasavara's killing, is not so. It is the result of karma to which God is subjected, and the arrow tip of the iron piece, which Bhima was trying to, that Mushala, because it's part of the Mushala Parva, and he wanted to rub it out, but since it carried the curse of the rishis, Ashtabakra, and Samba also had cursed the other one, Pramana, his curse. So Krishna himself admitted that the Yadavas had left Dharma, and they also carried the curse of Kunti, because Kunti said, after the end of this Mahabharata war, in 36 years, your Yadava Kula would be decimated. So this paradox of Naranarayana dyad is that they are manifested by one another, yet differentiated by the inherent gunas, which we can talk about with reference to Bhartrihari's ontology and linguistics. And Naranarayana cannot be one, for that will end the dialectics of samsara, and dharma, which is based on dialectical relationship with God. Now, death is a very intense experience in the context of dharma. No religion uh, omits death. Uh, it is painful, heartrending for us, primarily because the being suddenly becomes absence. But the perspective of the Indian tradition of Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata that they offer, the key concepts of avatara, Leela, and Sansara, the two time orders are juxtaposed. One of the main points of Indian aesthetics is that we have no tragedy. That's because we always simultaneously operate within the cosmic time and historic time. And in the religious texts, we identify the Nara who manifests Narayana, Narayana who manifests Nara to. We relate our human conditions to the conditions of Arjuna, who understands his own limitations and is still wise enough to understand the inordinate glory of Narayana, defenseless and mortally wounded. Because there, at that moment, I'll conclude now, Arjuna is eager to take him into his arms, put his head into his lap, and Krishna says, "No, you can't do that. You can't touch me." So Arjuna has to touch him with his bow Gandiva, and that's how Krishna dies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think it's a wide-ranging talk. Nara Narayana diet, Bhartrihari's linguistics. In between, we have had translations from textual heritage, dharmic textual heritage. There is a lot that is going on in the talk here, and I, on behalf of everybody here, may I request a warm round of applause once more to Professor Mohapatra for this illuminating talk. And we have time for one or two questions if they come. Otherwise, we can carry over the questions into the lunch hours as well. Lunch hours. So, with the organizer's request, what I just one kind of a commentary, if I may, would be the
Please, I wanted some response. Yeah.
the way in which, I mean, this is again a question from the translational perspectives. What are the terms that you would find along with the term avatara being used in Odia sources? Is there any other synonym, any other play on the word avatara, or any other word which would come close to that sense? Or is it a kind of a word that's kind of a one and only word that exists and comes in at peculiar moments of reflecting on Krishna or God?
Avatara etymologically is descending of God. Avatarana. So it's kind of a representation. It, but in Odia or Sanskrit, for that matter, there isn't any. I don't know. I don't think.
Neither have I. I mean, I haven't come across.
I haven't come across. I haven't come across. Although we can gloss it as some kind of immanence. It's right here and now. And God has avatarana. Avatarana. This has this Sanskrit, etymology of descending, coming down on us. So that it doesn't have any other.
That's actually true. Maybe, I mean, what I was thinking also is that, but look, there is a secular version of avatarana, or avatar, the use of the word avatar also. So like somebody would say Bisayar avatarana.
Yes.
Perfectly.
Yeah, I mean,
So
presentation and representation. You present something.
something, right?
And that presentation itself is a representation. Precisely.
right?
Yeah.
So we can find a secular, if I say secular usage, quote unquote, but then that's not the exact thing to say that we have a synonym or
No,
something. I don't think so.
no.
Okay. So with this, thank you so much to Professor Mohapatra for his illuminating talk. And I have several questions and we can carry them forward. For the
Yeah,
lunch.
sure.
Thank you very much. I think we need to do the memento presentation.
Just a second. Siddharth sir will present the memento and the Uttariya to Ashok sir. And please give a round of applause for them.